The Thinkware U3000 4K Dashcam is highly regarded as a parking mode powerhouse. But just how good is its parking mode capabilities, and what does it have to offer? By using this contraption I put together, I'm going to show just how power efficient the U3000 is in each of its 4 parking modes: Energy Saving 2.0, Timelapse, Motion, Impact, and Radar. I will also compare its power usage to other dashcams like the VIOFO A129 Plus Duo, BlackVue's DR770X Box, and Akeeyo's EYES AI Dashcam. I will go over the results, which show why the U3000 can last so long in parking mode even without an expensive dashcam battery pack. I will also dig a little deeper into each of the U3000's 4 parking modes to cover details I haven't seen anyone else mention about its parking modes. Lastly, I will put the U3000's Smart Parking Mode Thermal Protection feature to the test in a real-world scenario. I will sit in a hot car with the U3000 in parking mode all the way up to 80 degrees Celsius. Frakking Creations, showing you the good stuff. Before we start, I would like to thank Thinkware for providing the dashcam for free for us to test. And yes, I tested its parking mode features like no one else ever has. Thinkware U3000 actual parking recording time and power usage, using only the car battery. To start, I wanted to see how long the U3000 could record using its advanced radar parking mode. The actual parking recording time is one of the many important specs that matters when it comes to dashcams chosen mainly for parking mode. Thinkware already has their own test results, but it is using their external battery pack as shown here. This may not help for those that don't have a battery pack or don't want to spend on one. Our test is performed in a real vehicle using the car battery for power with both cameras properly installed. Plus, I will be using this battery monitor to track how much power is actually consumed by only the dashcam. Good stuff. The test consists of parking the vehicle overnight in an underground garage for a little over 13 hours. Because it is on a weekday within the same time frame, there is regular traffic from the same people leaving to go to work, coming home from work, and any other typical outings. This makes for a more consistent test and allows me to compare the recording time and power usage of the U3000 with itself in different parking modes and also with another dashcam. For example, the BlackVue DR770X Box with all 3 cameras recording in full HD. Before the test, I set the battery protection cutoff voltage and had the AGM battery charged as much as I could. Note that I wasn't able to get the battery fully charged in all cases, but this doesn't matter as much as the amount of power the dashcam actually used during the time the test ran. First, let's look at the U3000's recording times and power usage in Motion Impact Parking Mode. In 13 hours and 15 minutes, it used 3,600 milliamps of charge from the battery and captured 71 motion recordings and 9 impact recordings. Next, in radar parking mode, the U3000 was able to complete the 13-hour 17-minute test and still be running with a lot of capacity in the battery to spare. Impressively, it only used 300 milliamps of charge. It made 69 motion recordings and 7 impact recordings. Next is the BlackVue DR770X Box, which is a very good cloud dashcam with many advanced features. But the advanced features come with a cost. This is a power-hungry dashcam. It didn't complete the 13-hour 15-minute test. It only lasted 4 hours 51 minutes before hitting the cutoff voltage. In that time, it used 3,400 milliamps of charge from the battery. It made 46 motion recordings and 3 impact recordings. When I retested the U3000 for 48 hours, it only used 1,100 milliamps, which confirms the average power usage of 23 milliamps in the 13-hour test. This is much less than the BlackVue and can still run for several more days before using a total of 3,400 milliamps. What do these numbers tell us? In this table, we can see that the average power used per hour by the U3000 in Motion Impact Parking Mode is lower than the DR770X in Motion Impact Parking Mode. In fact, it is about 2.6 times lower. But when we compare the DR770X with the U3000 in radar mode, we see that the difference is a little over 30 times. This is very impressive. Theoretically, based on the test results, if we were to allocate 3600 milliamp hours of battery capacity for parking mode, the U3000 can last around 6 days in radar parking mode. This is some good stuff. But it is important to note that my parking mode test results aren't going to be the exact results you will get because of many different factors like how many motion and impact events occur around your parked vehicle, what kind of battery your vehicle is using, lead, acid, or HEM, what condition the battery is in, how much charge is remaining in the battery, how much power is being used by other systems in the vehicle while parked, and more. But this gives you an idea of how power efficient the U3000 is when it comes to parking mode power usage. Initial test results already show a big difference between the two quality dash cams that offer very useful features that target different needs. You may be wondering how the U3000 is able to do this. To understand it better, we need to dig a little deeper to see just what it all means by comparing with other dashcams. Thinkware U3000 Parking Power Usage versus VIOFO A129 Plus Duo, BlackVue DR770X Box, Akeeyo EYES. Here, I have 4 different dashcams set up individually and recorded the power usage for each of their parking modes. I recorded the power usage when in parking standby for the specific parking mode, then recorded the power usage when either a motion or impact event is triggered. We start with a comparison of the U3000's 4 different parking modes in standby. We see that in parking mode, the U3000 is very efficient. It uses less than 10 mA in Energy Saving 2.0 or radar parking modes, while using between 270 to 280 mA in Timelapse or Motion Impact parking modes. These numbers alone do not give the full picture on parking mode power usage. You also need to see how much power is used when a motion or impact event is triggered. This is because the power usage can increase significantly, and if there's a lot of motion or impacts detected, it will increase the power usage of a dashcam during parking mode. When I trigger a motion detection, both the motion impact parking mode and radar parking mode jump up to 270 to 320 mA of power usage. Once the current video file is saved, it drops back down. Motion detection does not happen in Energy Saving 2.0 or Timelapse, so this is not applicable here. Similarly, when I trigger an impact, we see that the power usage increases between 280 to 330 mA for Energy Saving 2.0, 270 to 280 mA for Timelapse, and 270 to 320 mA for Motion Impact Parking Mode and Radar Parking Mode. Here is a summary and an explanation. The Energy Saving 2.0 mode does not do much until an impact is detected, so that's when it wakes up and records in 15 frames per second with audio. For Timelapse, we see that the power usage stays consistent between parking mode and when an impact is detected. This is because it just logs the event. It stays in Timelapse mode and does not switch to normal recording mode to record in 15 frames per second with audio. For Motion Impact Parking Mode, it uses more power in standby because it is buffering the video in case an event occurs. When an event occurs, it stores what is in the memory buffer, thereby giving you video leading up to the event. For both Motion Impact Parking Mode and Radar Parking Mode, we see the typical 270 to 320 mA usage that is needed to record in 15 frames per second with audio when an event occurs. Next, we take a look at the VIOFO A129 Plus Duo, where I only tested the auto event detection feature. There are 2 rows of data collected, one with the screen turned off and one with it turned on. It looks like the screen uses up to 20 mA of power. The dashcam itself uses 270 to 290 mA of power depending on the screen being on or off. When motion is detected, the A129 Plus jumps up to 320 to 340 mA of power usage. The same for impact detections. But note that the screen turns on when an impact is detected. Another important point to note is that the VIOFO A129 Plus does not record impacts if a motion detection does not happen first. I will circle back to this later and talk more about this, as I am not a big fan of this kind of parking mode. Next dashcam is the BlackVue DR770X Box with either 2 or 3 cameras recording. In parking mode, it uses between 560 to 590 milliamps in time-lapse setting and jumps to 650 to 700 milliamps when an impact is detected. The reason the power usage is different here is because unlike the U3000's time-lapse mode, the DR770X actually switches to normal recording mode for the impact and then switches back to time-lapse. It's like a smart time-lapse mode, which is pretty useful. In motion impact parking mode, it is consistent at 650 to 700 milliamps of power use whether a motion or an impact is detected. Like I said before, this dashcam swallows power in order to offer its powerful feature set. And for two cameras, all readings are about 130 to 160 milliamps lower. The last dashcam is the Akeeyo EYES AI dashcam. In time-lapse mode, it uses 450 to 480 milliamps of power. It doesn't detect impacts in time-lapse mode, and consequently, you will have continuous time-lapse recordings, but they will not be tagged as an impact recording when an impact occurs. You will have to review all the videos to find any impacts that happened. In impact parking mode, it uses less than 10 milliamps of power, which is similar to the U3000's radar mode except for one big difference. It doesn't detect motion, so the only video footage you get is for impact-related events. Otherwise, no recordings. Impacts cause the power usage to spike to 590 milliamps, which is quite high. When we look at all the results together in the table, we can more easily compare the power usage of the different dashcams. There is a catch, however. It's actually not as simple as that. Each dashcam implements parking mode differently, and because of this, power usage during events can vary in duration. A dashcam can end up using more power depending on how long the dashcam records when an event is detected. This graph summarizes it nicely to show what happens when an impact is detected for each of the dashcams. The U3000 records for only 20 seconds. The A129 Plus Duo records two 1-minute videos for a total of 2 minutes. The DR770X records for 1 minute and the Akeeyo EYES for about 30 seconds. This is the real picture of why the U3000 can last so long in radar parking mode. It uses so little power in standby parking mode, and also not the most when an event is detected. But theoretically, if there were events detected 100% of the time, then the U3000 would be using around 270 to 320 milliamps all the time, which would not allow it to last quite as long in parking mode. As you can see, when you buy a dashcam for its parking mode capabilities, it isn't as simple as looking at the spec sheet and seeing if it has time-lapse, motion detection, impact detection, or more. Every manufacturer will implement each parking mode differently. Some will implement basic parking mode features, while some will implement advanced features, and others will take shortcuts. As I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of how VIOFO implemented the A129 Plus's parking mode. In order to trigger an impact recording, it first needs to detect a motion event. I can understand why they did this. If no motion is detected and an impact happens, then you may be recording nothing happening. But from my experience using security cameras and dash cams, I feel that it is always better to record if a potential event happens. More chance of you catching something in recorded footage versus having nothing. For the U3000, it is able to detect motion events and impact events independently, and that is how I would prefer parking mode to work. Thinkware U3000 Four Parking Modes Deep Dive. We see that the Thinkware U3000 offers a good set of parking modes to suit different needs, and each of them offer efficient power usage profiles. A dashcam that spends a lot of time in parking mode standby can in some cases last longer because it will use less power if it isn't recording an event. The U3000 does standby parking mode and parking mode event detection very efficiently, even while doing a good job recording in 4K front and 2K rear. To help decide which parking mode to use on the U3000, let's look at the details of each of the four parking modes. U3000 Energy Saving 2.0 Parking Mode. Here, the U3000 does not record when in parking standby mode. My battery monitor does not measure lower than 10 milliamps, so it might look like it uses the same as the radar mode, but that's not the case. There was another reviewer that was able to measure the Energy Saving 2.0 for the U3000 using only 3 milliamps versus the radar parking mode using 10 milliamps. though I don't remember if he had it set up with both cameras or not. So for the ultimate parking mode recording runtime, you could select this mode. Just be aware that it only records if an impact is detected. In this mode, there is also no buffered recording, so recordings start after the impact. The good thing about the U3000 is that it has a very quick wake-up time of 1 second. So 1 second after the impact, it is already starting to record. This is another point to consider when buying a dashcam for parking mode, but it is not usually mentioned in dashcam specs. U3000 Timelapse Parking Mode. In Timelapse, the U3000 is recording all the time, but at 2 frames per second without audio. An important thing to note is that though the U3000 will log an impact event and store the recording separately as an event recording, the recording is still in timelapse mode, so only 2 frames per second and no audio. When you compare this to the timelapse mode of the BlackVue DR770X Box, we see that it will switch to normal buffered recording mode if an impact is detected. This means that the event is recorded in real-time video. This kind of smart time-lapse can be useful and would be a way that the U3000 could improve on the time-lapse parking mode. Though note that it would result in more power usage in this mode. This is one reason why the DR770X's time-lapse mode still uses so much power, even in parking standby. It is buffering the video even in time-lapse. U3000 Motion Impact Parking Mode. In Motion Impact Parking Mode, the U3000 will record using buffered recording. This is a recording mode that allows the dashcam to capture the action leading up to the motion or impact event. A pretty cool way of going back in time, so to speak. Without buffered recording mode, you won't have a recording that includes the action that leads up to the motion or impact event. The U3000 creates video files that are 20 seconds long, 10 seconds before the event and 10 seconds after. This is a little short in my opinion. I do wish that the videos created are at least 40 seconds to 60 seconds long. In comparison, the DR770X creates buffered videos that are 1 minute long, 5 seconds before the event and 55 seconds after. This makes sure that in case something else happens, the camera is still recording and doesn't need to wake up again to start recording. U3000 Radar Parking Mode. This parking mode is unique to Thinkware, and from my use of it so far, I've come to like it quite a lot. It uses so little power when in standby and only wakes up if motion is detected by its radar or an impact is detected. This prevents a lot of useless motion-activated recordings being made that typically plagues motion-activated parking modes that use video to detect motion. In this mode, the U3000 does not have buffered recordings, so if an impact were to happen before motion was detected, the dashcam would wake up after the impact within 1 second and start recording. One strange behavior I ran into when testing the U3000 is that the radar detection can detect inside the cabin too. Here I triggered the radar detection while sitting in the passenger seat. Some additional things to note is that the radar sensitivity can be set to lowest, low, mid, high, and highest. And this equates to 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter, and 5 meter respectively. One important point is that this is measured from the dashcam and not from the front or rear bumper of the vehicle. Make sure to use the settings to configure the angle of the cameras for proper detections, and note that the rear camera has additional settings to configure. Another great feature that makes the U3000 a powerhouse for parking mode is the parking event summary you get when you start your vehicle after parking it.
During parking mode, motion detection recording. For and event detection recording. 1. Occurred.
Not only does this let you know if any motion or impact events occurred while parked, but the U3000 has seamless connectivity to the phone app. You easily launch the app and it automatically connects to the dashcam and shows you the summary. If interested, you click on either the motion or impact link and it takes you to the listing where you can watch any of the footage saved during your parking session. The U3000 includes an OBD power cable for easy installation by just plugging it into your vehicle's OBD port. This allows you to start using the U3000's powerful parking mode features right out of the box without hardwiring the dashcam to the vehicle's fuse box. Most dashcams don't include this. Thinkware U3000 Smart Parking Thermal Protection Real-World Test. Can it handle 80 degrees Celsius? The Thinkware U3000 has a smart parking mode that is supposed to protect the dashcam when the temperature gets too high in parking mode. Because the U3000 has an operating temperature range of minus 10 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius, what will happen if the temperature goes above this? A lot of other dashcams will either shut down or go into a repeating reboot cycle. This is not the case with the U3000. As per the specs, it is supposed to go into the smart parking thermal protection mode once the dashcam goes over 65 degrees Celsius. In this mode, the dashcam will switch to the Energy Saving 2.0 parking mode and only record if an impact is detected. Only after the temperature drops back down below 55 degrees Celsius does it go back to the previous parking mode. And note that the smart parking feature is only available in the time-lapse parking mode or motion impact parking mode settings, so this is not available for radar parking mode. In my test setup, I have the U3000 hardwired to the vehicle properly. Both the front and rear cameras have been installed and configured. I have a temperature sensor attached to the top vent of the U3000 and a battery monitor to help me tell if the dashcam is in motion impact parking mode or has switched to thermal protection mode. I made a makeshift cover or hotbox for the dashcam to trap the heat and make it heat up faster. I don't want to sit and wait for the cabin to heat up to 80 degrees Celsius or I'll be cooked alive in here. Here is what the test revealed. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the smart parking feature to start up. At first, the temperature exceeded 65 degrees Celsius and the dashcam kept running in motion impact parking mode. The recording light is still blinking, so that indicates that it hasn't switched to energy saving mode. So I thought maybe the dashcam internal temperature hasn't reached 65 degrees Celsius, so I push on. Next, the temperature reached 70 degrees Celsius and it's still running strong. 75 degrees Celsius passes and the U3000 is a workhorse and doesn't break a sweat. After about 45 minutes of testing, the temperature exceeds 80 degrees Celsius and the U3000 is still pushing through the heat. The LED is still blinking, it's still using more than 10 milliamps of power, and I do a quick impact test to see if the U3000 will detect an impact, and yes, it detects the impact. It looks like the U3000 can operate at a much higher temperature than stated in its specs. I just hope it isn't doing any permanent damage to its electronics or to the memory card. I do wonder, at what temperature does the U3000 actually switch to thermal protection mode? Also, for radar parking mode, since it does not have smart parking thermal protection, what happens if it gets too hot? Does it shut down? If it does, at what temperature? After all these tests, we see that the Thinkware U3000 is truly a parking mode master that offers several really good options for parking modes to suit the user's needs. Each parking mode is quite efficient and has the potential to last quite long in parking mode even when using only the vehicle's primary battery. Of course, as with everything, there could be improvements, but you get a lot for the price you pay. As always, like and share our video if it will help someone else. Subscribe for more good stuff to come.